The descent to Hell's Garden. The colony ship Dauntless hung in orbit around Phobos 9, its massive hull reflecting the eerie crimson light of the planet below. Captain Maya Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling storms that lashed across the planet's surface. Behind her, representatives from 7 different alien species argued in their native tongues, their translation devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. 5 previous expeditions, she murmured, more to herself than the aliens behind her. 15,000 colonists. 0 survivors. Commander Vexthor, the reptilian draconid representative, stepped beside her. His scales shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed his agitation. The Galactic Council has designated this planet as high priority for resources. Your species volunteered to lead this expedition because of your supposed adaptability. His translator rendered his hissing speech into crisp standard. Was that mere bravado, Captain Chen? Maya turned to face the alien delegation. Besides Vexthor, there were the crystalline Lithari, the hive-minded Vesperians, the gaseous Aetheri contained in their pressurized suits, the mechanical Syntoids, the amphibious Moranti, and the insectoid Kis. Each species had brought their elite forces, their best soldiers, scientists, and survival specialists. Humanity doesn't operate on bravado, Commander, she replied calmly. We operate on observation and adaptation. That's why we're still here when older species have faded into extinction. The holographic display between them activated, showing the detailed scans of Phobos 9. The planet was a paradox, rich in rare minerals and elements vital for interstellar civilization, yet seemingly determined to kill anything that touched its surface. The atmospheric composition changes randomly, noted Colin, the Moranti scientist, her webbed fingers manipulating the display. Gravitational anomalies appear without warning. Indigenous life forms demonstrate impossible evolutionary traits. Previous expeditions were eradicated within days. And yet, Maya said, you've all come with your weapons, your technology, your certainty that you'll succeed where others failed. She pulled up her own data display, a simple wrist device compared to the elaborate systems the aliens used. I studied every scrap of data from the previous missions. The common denominator in their failures wasn't the planet, it was their approach. The Synthoid representative, a humanoid machine named Interface, stepped forward. Its metallic features shifted into an approximation of skepticism. Elaborate, Captain Chen. They tried to fight the planet, Maya said simply. To conquer it. To bend it to their will with technology and firepower. She closed the holographic display with a swipe of her hand. We're going to try something different. The deployment began at dawn, ship time. Thousands of soldiers and specialists descended to the surface in drop pods, creating a spectacle of light as they burned through the atmosphere. Each species had selected their landing zones based on their environmental preferences. The Draconids chose volcanic regions, the Moranti selected coastlines, the Vesperians opted for dense vegetation where their hive could expand. Maya and her human team of 50 specialists took the Central Plains, the most unpredictable region according to previous scans. As her pod plummeted toward the surface, she watched the alien contingent spreading across the planet like an invasion force, which in many ways they were. Remember, she said to her team through the comm system, minimal technology. Observe before acting. Communicate everything. This isn't a conquest, it's a conversation. The landing was rough. The planet's gravitational field fluctuated during their descent, causing several pods to crash harder than anticipated. Maya's own pod hit with enough force to knock the wind from her lungs, despite the inertial dampeners. As the dust settled, warning lights flashed across her console. Status report, she demanded, unstrapping herself from the harness. Dr. Ileana Rivera, the team's xenobiologist, responded first. 3 pods lost contact during descent. The others report successful landings, minimal injuries. Maya nodded grimly. Already the planet was taking its toll, and they hadn't even stepped outside yet. She checked her environmental suit, a lightweight design compared to the heavy armor the alien contingents wore. The Draconids had arrived in what amounted to mobile tanks, while the Synthoids had upgraded their bodies with specialized combat systems designed to pacify any hostile elements. "Let's move," she ordered, activating the airlock. Standard formation, minimal footprint. The moment the door opened, Phobos 9 greeted them with its reality. The sky was a churning mass of purple clouds, crackling with energy that wasn't quite lightning. The ground beneath their feet wasn't soil but something closer to a living membrane, pulsing with veins of luminescent fluid. The air smelled of ozone and something organic, almost like cinnamon but with metallic undertones. "Atmospheric composition is shifting," reported Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, adjusting his sensor pack. "Oxygen levels just jumped 15% in the last minute." Maya held up her hand, signaling the team to halt. "It knows we're here," she said quietly. Lieutenant Dawson, the security officer, gripped his sidearm tighter. "Ma'am." "The planet," Maya clarified, kneeling to examine the ground. "It's reacting to our presence. Look." Where her shadow fell across the surface, the membrane-like ground had changed color, shifting from a deep purple to a lighter shade, creating a perfect outline of her form. "Photoreactive surface," suggested Rivera, taking samples. "No," Maya replied. "Watch." She shifted position, and the outline remained for several seconds before slowly following her movement. "It's tracking us. Learning." The comm system crackled, and Commander Vexthor's voice cut through. "Captain Chen, we're encountering resistance in Sector 7. Indigenous life forms have surrounded our position. We're engaging with..." The transmission cut off in a burst of static. Similar reports began flooding in from the other contingents. The Vesperians reported that their hive mind was experiencing echoes, as if something was mimicking their collective consciousness. The Synthoids found their systems being invaded by code that evolved faster than their firewalls. The Moranti discovered that the coastlines they'd selected were no longer there. The water had literally moved away from them. Maya ordered her team to establish a base camp with minimal disruption to the surrounding environment. Unlike the alien contingents, who were carving out their territories with energy weapons and terraforming equipment, the humans simply adapted to what was already there. The previous missions made the same mistake, Maya explained as they set up their monitoring equipment. They saw Phobos 9 as a resource to be exploited. They never considered that it might be more than just a planet. Tanaka looked up from his sensor readings, his face pale behind his visor. "You think it's sentient?" "I think," Maya replied carefully, "that we're dealing with something beyond our current understanding of life. Look at these readings. The entire planet's biosphere is interconnected. It's like one massive organism." Rivera nodded, excitement overcoming her initial fear. The membrane we're standing on, it could be a neural network. And these energy discharges in the atmosphere might be synaptic activity on a planetary scale. As night fell, a relative term on a planet where the darkness seemed to have depth and texture unlike anything on Earth, the situation deteriorated rapidly for the alien contingents. The Draconids reported that their weapons were malfunctioning, molecular bonds in their alloys breaking down for no apparent reason. The Litheri found themselves unable to move, their crystalline bodies somehow fusing with similar formations that emerged from the ground. The humans watched from their camp as distant explosions lit up the horizon. The K's had deployed their bioweapons, genetically engineered parasites designed to consume and repurpose organic matter. Within hours, the insectoids were sending panic transmissions as their own weapons turned against them, evolved beyond their creators' intentions. "They're fighting a war they can't win," Maya observed, watching the data streams from their passive sensors. The planet isn't just defending itself. It's learning from each attack, becoming stronger. By dawn, 3 of the alien contingents had gone completely silent. The Atheres containment suits had somehow been opened to the atmosphere, dispersing their gaseous forms. The Vesperians' hive mind had fragmented, individual drones wandering aimlessly. The Synthoids reported catastrophic system failures before their communications abruptly ended. Maya gathered her remaining team. They'd lost 10 members overnight, not to attacks, but to the subtle influence of the planet itself. Some had simply walked away into the alien landscape, their comm systems disabled, responding to some call that only they could hear. "We need to change our approach," she announced. "This isn't about survival anymore. It's about communication." She explained her theory. Phobos 9 wasn't trying to kill them. It was trying to understand them. Each species was being tested, examined, their weaknesses and strengths catalogued by an intelligence that operated on a planetary scale. "The aliens brought weapons and tried to impose their will," she said. "We're going to try something else. We're going to listen." Maya instructed her team to shut down all but the most essential equipment. No weapons, no active scans, nothing that could be interpreted as hostile. Instead, they would use passive observation tools, recording everything but interfering with nothing. "If this planet is sentient," she told them, "then first contact protocols apply. We need to establish communication." As the second day dawned, the membrane-like ground around their camp began to change, forming complex patterns that shifted and flowed. Rivera recorded everything, noting that the patterns resembled neural activity when mapped in 3 dimensions. "It's trying to talk to us," she whispered. Maya nodded, watching as the patterns grew more complex. "Now we just need to figure out what it's saying." The language of survival. The third day on Phobos 9 brought an eerie silence. The desperate transmissions from the alien contingents had ceased entirely. Of the 7 species that had landed with such confidence, only the Draconids still maintained sporadic contact, and their messages were becoming increasingly erratic. Maya led a small exploration team toward a formation that had appeared overnight, a towering structure that resembled a cross between a coral reef and a crystal lattice. It pulsed with the same luminescent fluid that ran through the membrane ground, but in patterns that seemed deliberate, almost like a heartbeat. "It's remarkable," Dr. Rivera breathed, her sensors recording everything. "The molecular structure is shifting in response to our presence." Maya approached the formation carefully. "It's not just responding to our presence," she observed. "It's responding to our attention. Look." When they focused their instruments on one section, that area would become more complex, more detailed, as if rewarding their interest. When they moved their attention elsewhere, the previous section would simplify again. "It's teaching us how to see it," Maya realized. "How to understand." Lieutenant Dawson, one of the few security personnel remaining, kept his distance. "Captain, with respect, we should be focusing on extraction. The Draconids are planning to deploy orbital strikes from their ships. They're saying the planet is hostile and needs to be neutralized." Maya shook her head. "This planet isn't hostile. It's curious. And the Draconids are about to make a catastrophic mistake." She attempted to contact Commander Vexthor, but the Draconid frequencies were blocked by increasing atmospheric interference. The energy storms above had intensified, creating a natural jamming field that isolated the surface from the orbiting ships. "We need to reach their position," Maya decided. "Show them what we've learned before they do something irreversible." The journey to the Draconid landing zone took them through landscapes that defied description. Forests where the trees moved like animals, tracking their passage with branch-like appendages. Fields of what appeared to be grass, but behaved like a liquid when touched, parting around their feet only to flow back together in their wake. The whole time, the membrane ground beneath them pulsed and shifted, creating patterns that Rivera was beginning to recognize as a form of mathematical expression. "It's not random," she explained to Maya as they paused to rest. "The patterns follow a sequence, like Fibonacci numbers, but more complex. I think it's establishing basic communication protocols." Maya nodded, watching as the ground near her foot shifted to mirror the pattern of her boot print, then expanded it into a more complex design. She deliberately created a simple pattern with her hand, 3 dots in a triangle. The ground rippled, recreating her pattern, then adding to it, creating a three-dimensional representation that rose slightly from the surface. "It's learning," she whispered, "and teaching at the same time." Tanaka, who had been monitoring atmospheric changes, suddenly called out a warning. "Energy spike. Something's happening." The sky above them tore open as a concentrated beam of energy punched through the clouds from orbit. The Draconids had begun their assault. The beam struck somewhere in the distance, and the entire planet seemed to shudder in response. The ground beneath them convulsed, nearly throwing them off their feet. "They're fools," Maya hissed, watching as more energy beams pierced the atmosphere. "They're going to provoke a response they can't handle." That response came swiftly. The energy storms above intensified, coalescing into something like a reverse tornado, a funnel of purple-black energy that shot upward from the surface. Their comm systems briefly captured the panicked transmissions from the Draconid ship as the energy funnel reached it, enveloping the vessel in crackling power that overwhelmed its shields in seconds. "The planet is defending itself," Rivera observed, her voice a mixture of awe and terror. Maya's team continued toward the Draconid position, now more urgent than ever. They needed to reach any survivors, to convince them to stand down before the planet decided all humans were a threat as well. They found what remained of the Draconid contingent entrenched in a defensive position around their landing craft. The once proud reptilian warriors were in disarray, their advanced technology failing around them. Their exo-armor, designed to enhance their natural strength, had somehow fused with their scales, immobilizing many. Others fired weapons that malfunctioned spectacularly, sometimes turning against their wielders. Commander Vexthor, his once gleaming scales now dull and patchy, greeted Maya with a hiss of desperation. "Your species claims to understand this demon world," he accused. "Make it stop." "It's not attacking you," Maya explained, gesturing to the devastation around them. "It's responding to your attacks. You brought weapons designed to subjugate and exploit. The planet recognized the threat and neutralized it." Vexthor's translator rendered a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "We are the foremost military power in the galactic arm. We have conquered worlds that make this one look like a garden paradise. How can we be defeated by dirt and rocks?" "Because this isn't just dirt and rocks," Maya replied. "This is a living system with an intelligence we barely comprehend. And you declared war on it." Even as they spoke, the ground around the Draconid position was changing, hardening into something like cement, trapping their equipment, and slowly encroaching on the aliens themselves. "We need to show it we're not a threat," Maya insisted. "Power down your weapons. All of them." "Never," Vexthor snarled. "We will not surrender to a planet." Maya's comm unit chimed, a message from the Dauntless. The human ship was preparing emergency extraction for any survivors. They had 1 hour before the planet's increasing electromagnetic activity would make shuttle landings impossible. "This is your last chance," Maya told Vexthor. "Come with us. Leave your weapons. Live to fight another day." The commander stared at her, his reptilian eyes unreadable. Then, slowly, he reached for his sidearm. "The Draconid Empire does not retreat," he hissed, raising the weapon, not toward Maya, but toward the sky, as if he could somehow hurt the planet itself. The ground beneath him rippled once, a single pulse that traveled up through his feet, into his armor, and into his body. Vexthor froze, his scales illuminating with the same bioluminescent fluid that ran through the planet's membrane. For a moment, he looked like a statue carved from living light. Then he collapsed, his body breaking apart not into blood and bone, but into fine dust that scattered on the wind. The remaining Draconids panicked, some firing wildly, others trying to flee. The planet's response was immediate and final. The ground opened beneath them, not in a violent earthquake, but in a deliberate parting, like lips opening to consume food. Within moments, the entire Draconid contingent was gone, along with their landing craft. Maya and her team backed away slowly. "No sudden movements," she instructed. "No hostile intent. We're leaving peacefully." The ground before them rippled, creating a clear path that led back in the direction of their own landing site. It was as clear a message as any: follow this route to safety. It's letting us go, Rivera whispered. It's showing us the way out. The extraction point was a small clearing that had been empty when they landed but now contained a perfect circle of the membrane ground, pulsing with energy. Above, they could see a shuttle from the Dauntless descending through a rare break in the atmospheric storms. As they waited, Maya knelt and placed her hand flat on the ground. The surface responded, forming a complex pattern around her fingers. "We'll come back," she promised quietly. "Not to conquer, to learn." The shuttle landed, its engines stirring up clouds of dust that sparkled with strange energy. As Maya's team boarded, she was the last to step off the planet's surface. As she did, the ground where she had stood rose up slightly, forming a perfect handprint, her handprint, as if Phobos 9 was returning her gesture. The journey back to the Dauntless was silent, each survivor lost in their own thoughts about what they had witnessed. Of the thousands who had descended to the surface, only Maya's small team remained. 7 alien species, with all their technology and military might, had been systematically eliminated or absorbed by a world they had sought to conquer. In orbit, Maya stood once again at the observation deck, watching the crimson world below. The energy storms had calmed, the surface returning to its deceptively peaceful appearance. "The mission is classified as a failure," Admiral Winters informed her, joining her at the viewport. "The Galactic Council is declaring Phobos 9 off-limits indefinitely." Maya nodded slowly. "They don't understand what happened down there. What we discovered. And what exactly did we discover, Captain?" She turned to face him, her expression serious. "That we're not alone in the universe in ways we never imagined. That intelligence and life can take forms we're only beginning to comprehend." She looked back at the planet. "And that conquest is sometimes the quickest path to extinction." The Dauntless broke orbit, its engines pushing it away from Phobos 9 and back toward the stars. Behind them, the crimson world continued its silent rotation, patient and ancient, waiting for visitors who would come to learn rather than conquer. In her quarters, Maya carefully unpacked the samples they had managed to bring back. Tiny pieces of the membrane ground, secured in containment fields. Even separated from the planet, they pulsed with that same mysterious energy, forming patterns that change when she observed them. "We'll understand you eventually," she whispered to the samples. "Next time, we'll come prepared for a conversation, not a conquest." As if in response, the pattern shifted one final time, forming a shape that looked remarkably like a human handprint. The message was clear: Phobos 9 would be waiting.